First off, I want to thank the grace of heaven and the virtues of the masters, the mercy of the grand predecessors, transmitting masters, lecturers, and everyone here today for this opportunity to discuss this topic, aspire, resolve, and fulfill vows. Actually, maybe it could also be worded as, I don't know, aspire and resolve to make and fulfill vows, something like that. But it's actually, so it's talking about these three things, three parts, I guess. Or stages, maybe. Aspiration, okay, which aspiration means to have a hope or ambition of achieving something. Okay, so like we aspire to do something, right? Resolve, of course, then is once we have that aspiration, then we decide, we are determined to make it happen, right? And of course, then fulfilling the vows, well, actually making and fulfilling vows, okay? So they kind of go hand in hand with the aspiration, I guess. All right. Okay, so what is our direction or aspiration in life, right? So many people, right, they live life without knowing where they're going or, where life is going to take them. What are they doing in life? For some people, life is just about survival, right? So people who are in impoverished conditions, maybe they don't have shelter and homeless, no food, no medical care. So you see that in society, and of course for them it's they're trying to get by. I mean, they have no great ambitions, right? They just want, well, you can say their aspiration is to maybe have a place to live in, right? Not on the streets, or just be able to get food, get their next meal. Okay. Now, but for most people, life is relatively modest. Basically they can get an education, they have a job, they get married, they have kids, et cetera, et cetera. But for a select few, right, they're more ambitious and seek to make their mark in society or in the world, right? Whether it is accumulating wealth, being famous, becoming powerful. Some people, they innovate, right, and come up with technology that can benefit others. Okay, so that's great. Technology, everything we're using now is based on these, you can say inventions, right? A lot of technology we use, it's useful. But of course, we have to keep in mind that everything, these technologies, it's how you use it, okay, is the key. Okay, it's not, I mean, they're tools, right, for us. Okay. But actually, so all these things are good, but to what end do we live our lives, right? Now, what is the ultimate purpose of life? That's really the question, right? What is the meaning of life? So that's why in the Dharma class, we have the first topic is basically what is the true meaning of life, right? Because that's the direction. That is our direction. We need to know our direction in life. If we are pursuing or heading in the wrong direction, we may be ignorant of the consequences. We would be ignorant of the consequences. So many people, maybe they don't believe in, reincarnation. They believe that maybe this life is it. This is it. I live my life here and now. And that's it. After I die, that's it. But and so that kind of determines, helps them, kind of shapes them, their goals, their ambitions, their aspirations, of what they want to do in life. Okay. But clearly, okay. So we can do. What we can do to benefit others materially, of course, is very good. All right. So, and we should do what we can in that regard. So, we can do what, even if we don't come up with anything great, some new technology or whatever to help people. But we can do our little part. Every little part is helpful to the people around us. Whether it's it can be charity, things like that, and just helping people. Right. So, however, not all suffering can be eliminated or alleviated by material means. Right. So, as Tao cultivators, we receive the Tao, and we know that there is more to life than just the material life, the physical life. Right. We have a soul. We have this Buddha nature, this essence, spiritual essence that continues on. Beyond this present existence, okay, this physical existence. So it is short-sighted to focus only on this one lifetime, right? And that's usually the problem that people have. They, you can say it's a short-sighted view. They only see this one lifetime, and they see that this is it, right? There's nothing beyond. And so we should understand the cause of suffering and the principle of causality and the law of karma. We also must take a look at the big picture, right? That life does not end in one lifetime. It is a continuum of lifetimes through constant reincarnation. Okay, so that is the endless suffering that Buddha talks about. Okay, so and if we can accept and understand the Four Noble Truths that Buddha talks about, that, this suffering, life, basically life is dukkha, life is suffering, right? And the cause is what? We self-create, we caused it ourselves, okay, this suffering through desire, okay? And desire creates karma through our actions, okay? So, but there is a way out, okay? So that's why we're here, right? That's why we are studying and learning the Tao, learning the way of the Buddha, to be able to transcend all this suffering. Okay. All right. Everyone has mundane goals and aspirations. Okay. These are fine for the most part, especially, if they are for the benefit of others or everyone. Okay. So, for example, there might be some medical researchers, right, that they discover and develop medicine and vaccines that are of great benefit to everyone. Okay, right? Obviously, vaccines are great; they can save lives. So other medicines as well. Okay, I'm not going to get into whether how much profit they should make, and that's a different story. Okay, but in terms of the having this aspiration to help create these things, develop these medicines or whatever other technologies that can be life-saving. That's very good, right? But other technologies, right, they can help improve our lives, but most technologies are basically a double-edged sword, right? They can benefit us in certain ways, but at the same time, they can also be harmful in certain unforeseen ways. Okay, so yeah, like all these technologies that we use, we talk about like social media, right? Social media is you can say it's a nice idea. It connects people together from all over the world, right? So we're only a click away from each other, so to speak. But at the same time, it has its drawbacks. Okay, it has its unforeseen consequences. That when people just use it, they basically, what people tend to do is they use a lot of, well, this is what happens, they start using these social media things, and then they forget about, or they stop interacting directly with people anymore. So that really affects, there are consequences to that. Okay, people become more, something that's supposedly helping them become more social, they become antisocial in person. Okay, so that becomes a problem. But anyways, So if the mundane goals and aspirations are only to benefit oneself, then they should not be taken it to extremes. Know when enough is enough. So it's like people, yeah, we have to, yeah, okay, let's say we get an education, we have to start a career. Obviously, we make money, generate wealth for ourselves, but when is enough? When we have to know when enough is enough, right? I mean, do we need to be the richest person in the world, or or is just getting 1% of that good enough, right? So the problem is, when we strive to go to those extremes, then it's basically we exclude everything else, right? That's like we're single-mindedly focused on that, and there are consequences to doing that. Okay, all right. So now there are also great aspirations. Okay, so these are extraordinary and noble. Right? For example, to transform oneself and enlighten others. So this is we're not talking about material benefits to people, not at least not directly. Okay, so and then also to achieve the ideal world of great harmony, right? To transcend the endless suffering of reincarnation. So you can say it's more spiritual. It's a higher level, higher plane. Okay, yeah. So Confucius, right? He 2,500 years ago or so, his great aspiration is the ideal world of great harmony. He envisioned this society where people were at peace with each other. They were in harmony. There was no crime. We live in a society today where it's full of crime, full of suffering. But he envisioned a society where that does not exist, where people would not do those things. Okay, so that is that's obviously a great aspiration to want to achieve that. I mean, people say, yeah, we want world peace, but it's not to that level. Okay, world peace is just okay. There's no fighting, right? But this goes beyond that because this really gets to the heart of the matter, right? The people's heart and minds have to change. That there has to be the proper, correct mindset, right? Or all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, I guess saints, they all have great aspirations. And in this case, we can say aspirations and vows. Okay, pretty much the same thing. So Guanyin Buddhas, for example, her great aspiration is to ferry all sentient beings from any realm that they exist in, from all existence, right? Until they are not saved, until they are saved, right? She would not consider herself to be a Buddha. Okay, so it's like endless. It's really endless. Persisting with this aspiration, even though we, even from our view, we see things. It's like, wow, that's like it will take forever to do that. Okay, and Siddhigarbha Buddha's great aspiration, right? This is the Buddha in the underworld, is to ferry all sentient beings, suffering in the underworld. So, who knows how many souls are in the underworld suffering. Imagine, trying to empty the underworld. Okay, that also will probably take, considerably forever. Okay. Maitreya Buddha's great aspiration is to transform the world into a pure lotus land. Basically to that ideal world of great harmony. Okay, that Confucius envisioned. And then holy teachers' great aspiration is basically the universal salvation of the three realms. Yeah, so so these are all very similar, right? These great aspirations, and obviously these are like aspirations of Buddhas. Okay, but we are for us as Tao cultivators, yeah, maybe because we're human, right? Okay, we still have some mundane aspirations and goals, but we should also, as Tao cultivators, and not only just Tao cultivators, but as disciples of our holy teacher, right? We should carry on that their aspiration of universal salvation, the three realms. Right? Okay. Right. So as Tao cultivators, we should strive to be noble and extraordinary as well. Have such extraordinary, noble aspiration. So we study, learn, cultivate, practice, and propagate the Tao to understand the true principles, Tao of humanity, and all other matters. There are billions of people in the world, but the vast majority of them may have ambitions, I guess you can say, ambitions, but they do not really have great aspirations. Right? They seek fortune, fame, power, bragging rights, maybe, status and wealth for their families, etc. Right? So they end up becoming maybe government or corporate officials and make a lot of money. But in the end, they just get to enjoy luxury in this one lifetime. Right? So they benefit themselves and their families, but do not provide a spiritual benefit or or even any great benefit to society or sentient beings. For the most part, these people they're doing it for themselves. Okay, they're doing it to benefit themselves for the most part. Even these politicians, they want to govern the nation, but for the most part, they're still just benefiting themselves. Okay. Now. So these material benefits can help, but as Tao cultivators, right, we must not lose sight of the big picture. We are not here to enjoy a luxury life. Right, we are here to cultivate and improve ourselves and evolve spiritually so that we can transcend samsara, this constant cycle of reincarnation, and that's the great suffering. Okay, so we must have great aspirations, resolve, and vows. We know that receiving Tao, studying and learning Tao, cultivating Tao, practicing Tao, propagating Tao is the path to enlightenment, to the ultimate enlightenment, right? And Buddhahood. It is too easy to get lost in our material pursuits. So no matter what our mundane aspirations, we must never lose sight of our true direction and objective. Right? So it's not easy to do what the Buddhas and saints have done, to bring about transformations in people's hearts and minds and the world, right? We rely on our holy teachers, ZhiShan and Sumu, okay, the 18th patriarch, matriarch, and their heavenly mandate, okay? Only with their heavenly mandate can we guide sentient beings to a better destiny, right? Because without the mandate, it's just like the religions, okay? They talk the good talk, right? It's kind of the spiritual, the afterlife, but can they actually achieve it? It's not as easy. Okay, so with heaven's mandate, our holy teachers having the heaven's mandate, and we're able through our transmitting masters to be able to transmit the Tao. Then we know that we can be open. That path to salvation is there. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so establishing these great aspirations. Basically, they're based on, you can say they're based on these four great vows of bodhisattvas. Okay. So it says, however innumerable sentient beings are, I vow to save them all. However inexhaustible vexations are, I vow to extinguish them all. However immeasurable the dharmas are, I vow to master them all. However incomparable perfect enlightenment is, I vow to achieve it. Okay, so that's basically every bodhisattva, has these vows. Okay. Right. So these are the aspirations and vows of every bodhisattva, and since we are Tao cultivators, we also should adopt the aspirations and ideals of the Buddhas and saints and bodhisattvas, right? So we are, effectively, if we are doing what we are supposed to be doing as cultivators, Tao cultivators, then we are, bodhisattvas, kind of, or at least wannabe bodhisattvas, okay? Wannabe Buddhas, okay? All right, so Now, these four great vows, they apply both internally and externally. So internally, that first vow basically is to deliver, deliver the sentient beings of the mind, right? Because within internally, our own mind is full of what? Illusion, deceit, evil, envy, jealousy, malice, greed, anger, ignorance, etc. Right? We can deliver it by means of having the right or proper view. Okay, so I think that's one of the Buddha's Noble Eightfold Paths, right? Having the right or the proper view or understanding, right? And also relying on our wisdom, Maha Prajna wisdom, the great wisdom that is within, that comes from our Buddha nature, the true nature. Okay. And externally, of course, is to save all sentient beings in all realms of existence. The second vow says internally is to replace our deluded conscious faculties, right? So our six senses, basically, or five or six senses, right? With the wisdom, right? The Mahaprajna wisdom of the Bodhi mind. Right? The Bodhi mind is basically the mind of enlightenment, you can say, okay? And externally, of course, is to end the afflictions of all sentient beings, right? The third vow, right, internally is basically to learn the countless dharmas. The dharma is basically all the various ways, the methods of the various the methods, guides. Okay, when we are awakened to our Bodhi mind and practice accordingly. Externally, it's to help all sentient beings master these dharmas as well. Okay, to guide them, to teach them, so that they can understand these dharmas. And the fourth vow, basically internally, is to achieve Buddhahood when the mind is non-conditional, without attachment and non-duality. Okay, so when we ourselves, our mind is completely non-dualistic, non-conditioned, has no attachment, right? And being at one with the Buddha nature. And then externally is to help all sentient beings also to achieve enlightenment. Okay, so it's not, it's both, ourselves and to help ourselves and to help others. Okay, so clearly, these are not accomplished in one lifetime, right? But just as Buddhas continue to fulfill their vows and Bodhisattvas continue to fulfill their vows, right? It is important for us to maintain the aspirations forever. Just like we saw, mentioned earlier about those aspirations, those great aspirations of the Bodhisattvas, where it's basically forever that they're going to be doing that, okay, trying to achieve them or fulfill them. All right. So our holy teacher, ZhiShan, right, 18th Patriarch, he says, okay, so the translation, it says 有事见公义, right? 无事见公难. Okay, so you can translate it as, if we do things or we have things to do, then it is easy to perform merits or accumulate, you can say accumulate merits. If we do nothing, then it is difficult to perform merits. Okay, so if there are things, whether it's Tao and temple matters for us to do, then it is easy to perform merits, of course. However, if we do not come to the temple, then the opportunities to perform merits will be very limited or even non-existent. Right? We cannot perform merits just by sitting there listening to classes or meditating. Okay? Therefore, we must come to the temple, be active and even proactive in our cultivation, practice, and propagation of Tao. Okay, so that's why, well, unfortunately, our English class right now, this is online, but definitely if people should go to the temple to listen to the class. Okay, even though you're listening online, you should go to the temple. Why? Because when you go to the temple, you listen to class. It's the same thing. You're listening to class, but you can also do things, perform merits in the temple as well, right? While you're there. Okay. So, only in this way, right, can we help our holy teachers to fulfill their aspiration for universal salvation of the three realms, right? Yeah, we all, okay, so I say active and proactive. Yeah, obviously it's an active thing, cultivation and practice of Tao. Well, we also need to be proactive as well. We can't just sit there and waiting for someone to call us to say, hey, come to the temple or whatever. We should take our own initiative, right? The more we can take the initiative, be proactive ourselves, the more we benefit ourselves. Well, of course, not just ourselves, we're benefiting our ancestors as well. Okay, so keep that in mind. And we don't want to lose any opportunities. And if we don't do anything, we are losing, well, not just the opportunities, we are losing time as well. Okay, and we have very limited time left, or we have limited time in the lifetimes. Okay, all right. So, and so we must have the spirit or drive and perform our duties. Although we don't care for social status or position, right? It certainly helps in today's societies, but more importantly, we must be sincere and honest, right? Respectable and honorable. Right? Otherwise, people will not necessarily listen to us, or worse yet, our words and actions turn them against us or cause Tao members to leave the temple and stop cultivating. So we have to be very careful what we say, that we do not say, the wrong things. And say, yes, that's why the Holy Deity always says, say things positively, right? Say good words, right? Say things in a positive way, encouraging words rather than negative, right? Saying, oh, you don't do this, you're going to hell, right? That's that's the wrong way to say something. All right. Okay. And that usually, that's not going to motivate, encourage the person. Okay. All right. So what do we aspire to? Basically, cultivation, practice, and propagation of Tao requires that we resolve to study and learn the way of Buddha, to awaken to and manifest that Bodhi mind, right? The Bodhi mind is one that seeks the true Tao and that Mahaprajna wisdom, right? So as Tao cultivators, we must be determined to awaken and manifest the Bodhi mind, right? To seek the Buddha way above, right? So that is the path that takes us out of this this existence, right? Out of this cycle of suffering, and to transform the sentient beings. Okay, the lowlies, yeah, but in this world, right? So it is our duty as disciples of Holy Teacher to carry on the mission of universal salvation of the three realms, right? So now Tao Kin, okay, so everyone who's received the Tao, they should aspire to ferry people. Okay, so try to bring them to the Tao. Okay, now obviously, again, this is not like we don't force people to do that. It depends on their affinity. Okay, but if obviously we do our part, if we see that this person, a friend, family member, of course, they're good moral character, and they are not in the wrong, the wrong occupation or whatever. They don't do those evil things, whatever. Then you should try to get them to receive the Tao, and yeah, and then just then it depends on their affinity. Okay. Now those who are in the Tao longer, including like lectures, temple hosts, right? You should really aspire to a higher level, right? What we call the four immeasurable minds. Okay, so that is a greater, aspiration. Okay, so these are the four immeasurable minds. The Chinese 词, okay, so we say simply, loving kindness. Bei is compassion, mercy. Shi is happy joy or rejoicing, rejoicing with others. Sa is equanimity and relinquishment. Okay, so then let's talk about each of these. So loving kindness, right? It's basically benevolence and unconditional kind-heartedness. Something like, motherly love and kindness. Okay, how a mother would be yeah, it's unconditional, their love for the child. Okay. And that, but of course, it'll go beyond that. So if you think about, God or Lamu, right? We are all children of God. So obviously, God, Lamu, has this unconditional love for all sentient beings, right? All sentient beings are children of God. And it doesn't matter whether they've done, bad things, evil things, whatever. Lamu still wishes that and hopes that they can turn around and become a good person and ultimately to return home, right? So now internally, this loving kindness, okay, so it means, to do not give rise to anger and hatred, greed and foolishness, right? Treat others with a warm and friendly attitude, okay? Externally, it means to give others happiness and a feeling of contentment or satisfaction. Do not make others feel vexed or upset, right? So again, this is where we have to be careful with our words and actions, our conduct, that it does not upset people, does not cause people to feel, uncomfortable, okay? And so, this way, people will feel the warmth and welcome and will feel better about cultivating and propagating Tao and performing their duties. Right? So that makes sense. So yeah, I mean, we really should have a kind of a welcoming attitude towards people here in the temple or to Tao Kin, and just have that, create that kind of you could say that atmosphere of warmth and that kindness, okay, towards everyone, and make them, feel that they want to be here, right? That they want to take part in this mission, in the cultivation and the practice of Tao. Okay. All right. So next is the compassion and mercy. Right. So it's about reduction or removal of suffering. You can say empathy and compassion. Great sympathy and pity. All right. Internally, it's means it's good to good to and very content. Okay. Well, basically, should be content with oneself, right? Oh, we have to be good to ourselves, okay, and content with oneself as well, right? No, we shouldn't have resentment or hatred or anger, and you should be content in any environment or situation. And externally, it's to sympathize with and pity others, save them from the suffering, guide them to leave the suffering and to gain happiness. Okay. So whether we are being, so we should be content in whatever situation or environment that we're in. Okay, so whether we're poor or wealthy, have a status, or be impoverished or humility, right? We still demonstrate ethics, morality, and nobility. Okay, so basically, just demonstrating basically the virtues, okay, and the Tao, no matter what the situation is, right, or whatever the conditions are, right? Okay. So it's basically so, and we want to help people. I mean, that doesn't mean that we can completely eliminate people's suffering. Obviously, we can do whatever we can. Maybe it's not even material, helping them materially. It could just be giving them comforting words, advice, right? Just giving them a smile, making them feel good, feel better about themselves. Okay, that is all helpful as long as we can make them happy, make them, and obviously, then what goes along with that is that, for that to last, of course, is to have them understand the Tao, the principles, understand karma, all these things. Okay, so that once we have an understanding, then then that can help as well. Okay, so happy, joy, and rejoicing. Okay, rejoice. So it's joyfulness, happy to say good words and do good deeds, right? Rejoice in the good fortune or happiness of others, right? Seeing others succeed is our own success, right? When others are happy, we are happy. Sentient beings and I are one. Yeah, basically that's the attitude, is that, yeah, we are, so I am happy when they are, when I see others being, that they are happy. And so that is, you can say that the compassion or mercy is kind of on the you can say the, I don't know, the negative side. I mean, the part where if they are sad, right, they're suffering, then I feel the same thing. I feel they're suffering. Okay, that's the sympathy, empathy, right? Compassion, right? So, but this is kind of like on the positive side, if you will, the joyful side, happy side. Okay, so yeah, so we should not, envy, right? We don't envy others for their good fortune, right? Example, or their happiness, right? So this is again, the idea is that we are one. We are one with all sentient beings, and we are because we all share that same. We all have that same Buddha nature essence, that true essence within us. Okay, and we are all, yeah, you can say we are all children of God, of Lamo. Okay, so we are all one. We all come from the same spiritual source. Okay. Okay. And then, so finally, the last one, equanimity, and relinquishment. Okay, so this we can, is basically, we do it through the three charities of material giving, giving of Dharma, and fearless giving. Fearless giving is, well, we generally talk about this as being, as basically, everything other than the first two, okay, material and art. So it's like, putting in time and effort, okay. But it's actually also in the Buddhist, right, definition of this, it's actually fearless giving is, you want the person, the other person to kind of like not be fearless. Well, not be fearless, but not not be afraid. Okay, so you give them words of encouragement, for example, right? Trying to give them good guidance. That is the thing. I mean, maybe you can kind of put that into Dharma giving, but it's actually, that's part of this fearless giving. It's also, giving encouragement. Okay, when they need it, when they really need it most, right? Give of oneself for sentient beings, right? Save and ferry sentient beings, let sentient beings be happy, right? And give of oneself so as to forget the self, okay? The ego, right? This idea of me being a separate entity, being a separate person from everyone else, right? So every thought, every word, and every action is the Tao. Okay, so at the highest level of equanimity and relinquishment, one does not leave the Tao for even a moment, right? So at this level, at this level of equanimity and basically complete relinquishment, there is no self, no longer any ego, no self. We are selfless, and therefore we are sentient beings. I am you, you am I, you are I. Okay. So it is because of heaven's mandate and the open propagation of Tao and all the sentient beings that need to be saved that we have this opportunity to cultivate the Bodhi mind, right? Okay, so these four immeasurable minds, this is basically the, you can say this is the great aspiration for all of us, okay? So now we have to fulfill these vows, okay? So the aspirations, you can say it's also vows, right? I mean, we do also make specific vows. So fulfilling vows is a lifelong commitment. Okay, that's important to realize. And it can go beyond this lifetime as well. Okay, so after we have established an aspiration and resolve, then we must follow through and fulfill our vows. Whatever our aspirations and vows, we must fulfill these aspirations and vows. Just like our own cultivation and following the golden thread, right? This is not just for 5 or 10 years. This is a lifelong commitment. Okay, so when we take the vows, we make the vows. It's essentially it's forever. Okay, it really is. Okay, so we must be must have a sincere concentration and single-minded confidence to carry it out until the end. Right. So we have to have that resolve, that confidence, that determination, and dedication to be successful in fulfilling our vows. Right. We cannot give up. If we don't have a strong foundation, we don't have a strong will. We encounter difficulties, hardships along the way, and we might give up. So we can't do that. I mean, maybe we temporarily pause. Let's say we pause, but before we continue, kind of pick ourselves up and then continue. But we should not give up. Right. And then we respect the teachers and the Tao. Okay, so respect and follow heaven's mandate, respect and follow the temple rules and regulations. Take universal salvation as our own aspiration. Right. So in Tao cultivation, we must follow heaven's mandate. As a person of virtue, we must respect heaven's mandate, the mandate of our holy teachers, ZhiShan and ZhiMin. Okay. If not for the greatness of heaven's mandate, the transmission of the Tao would not have been passed down to the present. Right. Heaven's mandate is the power and attractive force. The temple regulations have been set by our holy teachers. Right. These are the rules and principles for our cultivation and practices of Tao. So, we have to respect those and follow those. Universal salvation, of course, is the aspiration of our holy teachers, so it should also be our aspiration. And then to take good words as the treasure. Okay, so keep in mind all the good words, advice, encouragement spoken by holy teacher, grand predecessor, transmitting masters, lectures, or any virtuous worthies that other people have given us some good guidance and advice. We should always treasure those. Okay, because you never know. I mean, those words can help us at any time. Okay, maybe not just in that moment, but maybe later on as well. We should take virtuous talents as the light. Okay, I call virtuous talents. I mean, these are just the people, right, in the temple. Without these, basically like staff members, we can't accomplish much. Right? If there are 后学, those who are followers, then we should guide them, train them, and nurture them as if they are our life. Okay. Take the precepts as the law. Okay, so as all cultivators, we must observe the precepts, rules, and regulations. Right. For example, the 5 precepts of Buddhism: no killing, no stealing, no lust, no lying, no intoxicants. Okay, but not just those, but all the temple rules and regulations and proprieties we need to follow. Okay, we must respect holy teachers with reverence. Right, sincerely respect our holy teachers in our hearts and with our words, conduct, and actions. Okay, so it's not just saying, "Oh, I respect them," but it has to be demonstrated. We should demonstrate that through our words, conduct, and actions as well. We must respect the Tao also with sincerity, maintain that sincerity until the end as well. Again, you can say that this, whether we have the faith in the Tao, right? Do not waver in our faith, okay? And sincerity. Must follow the temple proprieties, rules, regulations strictly, okay? So in the temple and Tao field, we cannot be careless, casual, or mediocre. Right? The proprieties, rules, and regulations must be strictly followed and always be strict with oneself. Okay, we ask of ourselves, demand of ourselves to be strict. Okay, even if we cannot necessarily demand others to be as strict. Right, so that's the way how we can improve ourselves. We must have a true heart and mind of the Tao. We cannot have false pretense in cultivating Tao. We must be sincere about the Tao and about cultivation. So, if we see the Tao and we cultivate the Tao for purposes other than, saving sentient beings, then that is incorrect. That's a false pretense. For example, we might focus on gaining merit. Yeah, even though we say, okay, we're fairing people, but the idea is to gain just to collect merit, and that is wrong. Okay. Aspirations must be noble and lofty. Okay, so to be also, so this is one. Okay, to be vegan or vegetarian is essential. Now, okay, so it doesn't mean that you have to be vegan or vegetarian right away, right? So it's when we get to a certain level of our cultivation, okay, of our advancement or progress in cultivation, then we should become vegan or vegetarian. Basically, take the vow and maintain a good attitude and thoughts when we do things, okay? Because it's obviously this is not just about what we eat, okay? It's what comes out of our mouth, what's in our mind, and our conduct as well. Okay, so we should also set an example or be a role model. As the Tao cultivators, we should set a proper example with our conduct, words, and actions, be a role model of the Tao, being upright and proper. We have to have tolerance, magnanimity, must be expansive. Okay, so in the temple and Tao field, we will encounter and interact with a broad range of people. So we should learn to be as tolerant and magnanimous as our Grand Patriarch, Maitreya. And so able to accommodate all matters and situations, we cannot be petty and narrow-minded, right? Our conduct must be moral and just, right? So no matter what we are dealing with, we must be fair and just, or who we are dealing with. Okay, we have to be fair and just, and it's also we cannot be doing it for selfish or selfish purposes or just benefiting ourselves. Okay. Then the 8 cardinal virtues and 5 constants must be upheld and practiced. So the 8 virtues of filial piety, brotherhood, loyalty, trust, and trustworthiness, right? Propriety, righteousness, integrity, sense of shame. Okay. And the 5 constants are benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, and sincerity. Okay. So, if we do not uphold and practice the 8 cardinal virtues and the 5 constants, then we do not have a proper foundation. Okay. The practice of these virtues is inherent in and fundamental to the 5 cardinal relationships, right? The relationships, all the possible relationships that we can have in society, right? Between parents and children, between husband and wife, between siblings, between superior and subordinates, and between friends, right? So without this foundation, we cannot cultivate and practice Tao. So that's very important. We have to uphold and practice these virtues, okay? And that's in everyday life. Okay, so mistakes must be corrected, right? So to err is human, okay? But when we know our faults and mistakes, then we must correct them, right? There is a saying, to put down the butcher knife, one can become a Buddha in that moment, right? So, knowing that we are breaking the precepts, temple proprieties, or rules and regulations, we must stop and correct ourselves. So uphold and practice the precepts, proprieties, etc. So even when we have the wrong thoughts and mindset, we must stop and correct our mindset. So learn to be like Yan Hui, he's the young disciple of Confucius, right? Not making the same mistake twice, right? That's why Holy Teacher told us to have at least 3 honest and candid friends or advisors who can point out our faults and mistakes so that we can correct ourselves. Okay. Because usually we have a blind spot. We don't see our own faults and mistakes, right? So heaven's grace must be requited. Heaven has given us Tao to save our soul and our ancestors. This kind of heaven's grace and master's virtues is very difficult to repay, even with our own life. Okay. So the vows, of course, must be fulfilled. And we must respect the ZhiShan, our predecessors, and love the whole share, the followers. Okay, so those who come before us, or who are above us, right? We have to be respectful of them, and those because they are guiding us and looking after us. They could be, it could be any of them, like our introducer, lecturers, transmitters, our predecessors. Okay, and then we also must guide nurture, love the hosher, those who come after us, right? And then so we have to be patient and humble, work hard without complaint, sacrifice or dedicate oneself for others. Okay, so yeah, we can be patient or endure for a while. If we can do that, then things will calm down. Right? Be humble and yielding, then we are boundless as the sea and sky. Arrogance and pride invites disaster. So humility reaps benefits. Right? So treat people with deference and respect. It is worth making sacrifices and enduring difficulties for the sake of saving others. All right. And then, okay, so embrace and follow the Tao and sincerely repent. Okay, so conduct ourselves according to the Tao principles, and perform good deeds. Repent past faults and mistakes and regret future wrongs. If we can do these things, then we can be a person of honor and integrity, and we can also be successful in cultivating Tao. Okay, all right, let's get into conclusion. All right, so this is the Immortal of Longevity. It's a short little scripture. It's, I guess the title is the model. Okay, so yeah, we can take these words, remember the good words, right? Treasure them. Okay, so this is a model that we should keep in mind and follow, right? And practice, right? It's not difficult to be smart in learning Tao, but difficult to be cautious. Okay, so, yeah, we can become, we can be smart and quick-witted, but it's actually difficult to be cautious because once we learn something, we tend to think we know more than we do, or we think we know everything. Okay, so that's dangerous, and we'll make mistakes that way, right? But then, we might end up saying or doing things without careful consideration. So we must always be humble and be cautious. Okay. It is not difficult to be brave when inspired, but difficult to be persistent. Yeah. So basically, it's easy to make a decision, right? To say, oh, in the spur of the moment, I feel very inspired, very enthusiastic about, making a vow or having that aspiration. But it's difficult to persist in carrying it out. So it's only for a short time for most people, right? Many people, they're inspired to make vows in the moment with rousing enthusiasm, but they fail to persist in fulfilling their vows. And we see this, in so many Dharma classes. People take the vows, but then they're like very enthusiastic at the time, but then over a matter of weeks, months, maybe years, they just fade away. They don't follow through. Okay. It is not difficult to correct others out in society, but difficult to control oneself. Yeah, it's always easier to point out, criticize, and correct other people, but it's difficult to control and correct ourselves. Right? We all have blind spots where we cannot see our own faults and mistakes. Right? That is why we should have a few honest and candid friends and advisors who can point them out to us. Okay. It is not difficult to do things quickly, but difficult to do things with patience and endurance. Right? Because yeah, I mean, when we do things quickly, maybe it's, we're not doing a very good job. We're not being careful. And sometimes, some things may take longer to do. And maybe we don't have the patience. We may not complete the task, or, just like our aspirations and vows, right? It's going to be a lifelong endeavor, commitment. And, it's not going to happen. We can't achieve it quickly. So we have to have patience and endure that whatever comes. Okay, we still have to continue. It is not difficult to understand something, but difficult to be correct in our understanding. So this is a problem that a lot of people have. We all have. Everyone has certain ideas about how things, how they understand or interpret things. Right? It could be a scripture, for example. And people will interpret it their own way, a different way. But is it correct? That's the question. Okay, so we have to know to make sure that we get the correct understanding. Without the correct understanding, and if we're stubborn, if we're attached to our own ideas, our own way of thinking, then we may not get to that correct understanding. Okay, so that's dangerous. All right, so we need to be more open-minded, be accepting other people's ideas, and explanations. But ultimately, of course, we have to use our wisdom to truly understand, right? Get to the truth. Okay. Okay. So finally, says, entering the path of Tao cultivation, one must be inspired and resolved or determined first. Okay, so that's we are in this path of Tao cultivation, this path towards Buddhahood, right? So we have to be inspired. We have to be, you can say, yeah, motivated or but inspired and determined, have that will to walk this path all the way, okay, to the end, right? In the urgent task of cultivation, making vows is a priority. So in cultivation, we must make vows, take vows. Okay, so that's why they are in, we have those, okay? And because those are those vows, if we expect to achieve or be able to complete this path towards Buddhahood, we have to take those vows and we have to fulfill them. Okay. With inspiration and resolve, sentient beings can be faired. So once we have these inspiration and that resolve, that determination, then it follows that sentient beings can be faired. We can say sentient beings, right? With the vows, the path to Buddhahood can be a success. So again, this is, it can only, yeah, I mean, the vows are necessary to succeed in ultimately becoming a Buddha. Okay. So, okay, and that concludes this topic. If I had said anything wrong, I asked, or unsatisfactory, I asked the Buddhists for forgiveness, and I also asked transmitting masters and lecturers for their corrections. And finally, I dedicate or transfer the merits from this class to the global collective karma. Thank you.